now I think I have the audio working. I have a new setup this time, so I'm not exactly sure if I'm doing this correct or not. And I did this because I wanted to do like a screen share. I had some questions that people had sent me, so I wanted to be able to show some stuff, so I don't... Not entirely sure I'm doing this correctly, so bear with me here. Okay. Cool. Alright. So yeah, so for this stream, I have this, this was a jacket from, I always want to say Glenn on Osborne, but Matt Osborne, who was the original Doink, gave to me. I don't think this was like... I don't think he used this in WWE. At least I couldn't find any pictures of him wearing it in WWE. Maybe he did. But it was basically a Doink the Clown. It's like a spandex jacket that he gave to me. He was actually running shows in Freehold, and we were running in like the next town over in Morganville. And he was just going to throw it out, and I was like, "Oh, hey, can I have it?" And he gave it to me. So I'm going to give that away to somebody. So just comment on this video if you're watching this live or later on. Just say enter, and I'm going to pick one winner and send it to somebody. So the one thing I wanted to cover, I was going to make a video about this, but I figured it's just easier to do it as a Q&A. I get a lot of questions about building a ring. And I just want to say from the outset, I am not a carpenter. I don't know how to build a ring. But over the years, we've built a number of them. So I kind of wanted to go through like our progression and what we used over the years to see if it might be helpful for people out there. And again, safety warning. I'm not saying any of this stuff was safe or you should do it yourself. I'm just going to show you what we did in the past, we being my friends and myself. So let me pull this up here. Okay. I see somebody said, "Yo, hey, how you doing?" Let me know if you guys can see this. I'm going to put myself real small here. So I have, this is just I'm doing a remote desktop to a Windows computer I have here. So I have a couple pictures that I just wanted to scroll through. It's probably not the best way of doing this, but this is the only way I could think of. So you can see when we first started wrestling, well, go back even further than this picture. When I started wrestling with my friends and I had basically a fence post, 2 fence posts that was like a chain link fence that met my neighbor's house. Then I had a basketball net and then a light pole. And I built ropes, and instead of using ropes, for whatever reason, I used a chain of rubber bands. So I spent days building, like, figuring it would give me the elasticity of ring ropes. So I did that. Years later, we would just wrestle in my front yard, my backyard. Then we would wrestle on this cul-de-sac that's near my development. And then later on, we would go to my friend's house, and this was his backyard. And you can see we just threw down, I think this is what most people do who are backyard wrestlers, right? You throw down a futon. And, okay, yes, we can see it. Perfect. Thank you so much. You throw down a futon, a couple mattresses, and you just wrestle for hours and hours. So this was our setup at first. You could see there, that was a table that one of my friends went through, that he built himself. It was just literally 3 pieces of wood nailed together, very unsafe using nails and stuff like that. And you could see the amount of padding. It's the world's safest table outside of the nails that were used. So that was, that's the stupidity of younger kids. We were probably 14, 15 at this time. And this was 3 of us here. We used to just set up, I don't know if you could see, but basically we had a broken camera. It wasn't as easy back in the early 2000s to film stuff like it is now, where people could just film it on their phones and it looks much better than this quality. So anyway, our camera broke, so we were recording directly to a VCR from a camera feed. And this is basically where we wrestled. We stopped using pads and stuff like that, and we're just using the entirety of the backyard. So there wasn't a lot of like if somebody clotheslined you, you went down real slow. So yeah. Let's see. I need help getting an actual ring. Tired of these rinky-dink tarp and fence posts. Oh well, wait till you see some of the rinky-dink setups I got here. Speaking of tarps and fence posts, here you go. This wasn't built by me. This was built by a friend of mine. We would later do shows in this guy's backyard, but this was before I was involved. It's just 4 poles in the ground. This isn't even rope. These are hoses that he used, and then futons covered in tarps. And this futon like literally sat in his bedroom, so it was like getting all dirty and stuff. And you can see all the paper belts there. This is an entranceway that we set up. Again, just tarps, and this was actually a scaffolding. I believe this guy's dad was a painter or some kind of construction worker where he had these scaffold pieces. So he just basically built an entranceway out of the scaffolding. So it kind of worked well for us. I know it's not common for kids to come across scaffolding. So I don't know what else you could use, but I mean, really, you can come out from the side of the house or from the house if you're an aspiring backyard wrestler out there. And then, so this was the progression of the ring. So the ring was originally over on kind of on this side where the camera was, and then it moved over to here, and you can see we started using ropes. The poles were put into the ground here. There's still the futon there, and then just a tarp underneath the futon, figuring that would keep the futon clean from being off the ground. Never mind all the dirty kids jumping on it. Same kind of shot, but I just wanted to show that we obviously with this setup you really couldn't climb the ropes, and as a kid that's kind of what you want to do. So we put a ladder there, and we basically nailed the ladder to this wood pole so it wouldn't move, and that's the way we were able to climb the ropes. I'm doing a backyard fed that's legit. Low ring, okay. Need a ring. Yeah, rings are not easy to come by. I mean, you can buy them brand new, obviously, from High Spots, Monster Rings, and stuff like that. But you're looking at $5 to $7 grand. So, it's not a cheap way to get into it. Now here it's basically the same ring. We upgraded the ropes a little bit, and we lucked into these crash pads that were from a rock wall at Six Flags Great Adventure that they were throwing out. And a couple of these guys here worked at the rock wall at the time and said, no, don't throw them out. And they were able to get them, and we used these 4 crash pads, and they were great. Like, you could fall on them all day and never get hurt. So this was, we were taking everything down here. We put in metal poles to hopefully, we were thinking it was going to tighten the ropes. It didn't. Because, I mean, you still have the wiggle room of the ground, right? No matter how much cement we use, we couldn't get it to go sturdy. You could see our ladder in the background there. A lot of guys digging holes and stuff like that. And I'm just supervising, of course. This was what the scaffolding looked like underneath it. You can see we eventually got like parts of fences. This was all stuff that was garbage picked, by the way. So like, don't have an ego with this stuff. If you have the ability to just go out and garbage pick some stuff, go for it, because that's where we found some of our best stuff. We made like basically when you would walk out, you would kind of sink into the ground. This backyard there was a hill right over here, over on this side, and everything would get wet. So when you would walk out, you'd sink into the ground. So we actually got this and some. This sounds gross, but we garbage picked some carpet. And we put it on top of this and would walk out onto that so we wouldn't sink into the ground as badly. I'm not recommending anybody garbage pick carpet, because I don't think that's super healthy. Hey, just real quick, because I know people are joining on this thing late. So if anybody wants to, just type enter in the chat. This is an original ring jacket from Doink the Clown, the guy who played Doink the Clown, Glenn Osborne. He gave it to me a couple years ago. Giving it away to somebody, so anybody who wants it, just hit enter. I'm going to pick a winner here in the next couple weeks and send it to somebody. So anybody who wants that or is into that kind of stuff, just let me know. This was just somebody digging out one of the holes. I think I did these out of order. So we wanted to create some signs to like promote our website. Like our website was like a big thing in the early 2000s, and we didn't have a way to cut wood, so that's how we did it. And you could see what a great cut that was. And basically the signs looked like this when we were done. So that's where we would put like the name of our show, and we were on TV at the time, so when you could catch the show, whatever the website was, and all that. Okay, let me put that here. There we go. Sorry, I'm on a Mac, so this is more of the same. So eventually, after we left that backyard, we went to a different backyard and bought a ring. And this ring I got from High Spots. At the time, it was, I want to say it was like $4,000, but I did it in installments. I believe I paid half up front, and then I would pay, I don't remember what it was, like $200 a month for a year, and then that paid off the rest of the ring, or whatever I paid. I don't remember. But yeah, we would set it up, and this is where we trained a lot of my friends, just outside, like AWA style, right? Like Ric Flair trained in an outdoor barn in Minneapolis, right? Like that was our mentality, and we trained during the winter, like the worst time to train. Luckily, most of us were 18, 19 at the time, so like we could deal with it, but not the best way to train. And so this is just a further out shot of what that ring looked like. Then eventually we left. When it started to get warm, we stopped wrestling outside, and we took the padding that was on the ring and put it in my friend's basement, and then we would run like dojo dungeon shows. But we were really using it for training and trying to get the guys to learn how to bump and chain wrestle and all that stuff, which I wish we did that during the winter inside, and then did the bumping when it was nice outside, but that's just not the way it worked back then. Keep getting the stupid thing to pop up here. Okay. And then a couple years later, we went back to that same backyard we were in earlier, but the rule was his parents didn't want us sticking poles in the ground, so our brilliant idea was, well, we'll stick the poles in cement buckets, and then we can just attach them, and this ring fell over all the time. One of the worst designs. You can see here, every time you hit the ropes, no matter how we braced it, you hit the ropes, and these all the buckles would fall in on themselves. So if you're out there looking to design a ring, don't do it this way. You're one of the very few people in the indie world that's open or even willing to mention backyard wrestling. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't understand that, because honestly, 90% of wrestlers in general, like WWE, AEW, independent wrestlers, anywhere, they all did it as kids. And like, I would say the same thing about most of the football players in the NFL. They all played football in their backyard or with their friends, and same thing with baseball. Like, what's the difference between, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand the hate towards it. I don't like when the kids use like light tubes and stuff like that, but I also don't like when adults do it. It's just preference, right? So, I mean, if kids are having fun with it, they're being safe. A lot of people will throw it's super dangerous. Of course it's dangerous. Football's super dangerous. Hockey is super dangerous. Baseball can be super dangerous. So 99% of the stuff kids do is super dangerous. So, I don't know, like, I don't get the hate towards backyard wrestling, especially from inside the industry. Once you do get into professional wrestling, if you take it seriously and you're professional, to me it doesn't matter, where you came from. That's the way I look at it. How much has backyard wrestling changed since then? Is it still teenagers and wrestling in new corners? I don't know how much it's changed, because I don't know what the world of backyard wrestling looks like today. If that makes sense. I don't really follow it I don't really follow much of any wrestling, let alone backyard wrestling. So I don't know what they're doing today. I would imagine the quality looks a lot better because cameras have improved so much. I would imagine it's easier to get people access to your show. I mean, this was before YouTube, most of this stuff. So like hosting this stuff, I would have to put clips that were like this big, and the quality was so terrible on a website, and you had to build like an HTML player in order to view the clips. So this was, I don't know, like I would imagine kids have a much easier time doing backyard wrestling than we did, but I don't know, honestly. And then that's just another shot. So eventually we got another ring. This was our second ring here, and this one was a low ring. It was used. We bought it off somebody off Craigslist, I believe, and we all just kind of pitched in and bought a ring. I think the deal was I paid half the ring, and everybody else would chip in and pay the other half. Was the way it worked out. This ring we would end up losing, like a year later. We lost pieces of it over time. You can see it was still brand new because we had just cut the wood pieces to fit inside the ring. So these are the leftover pieces that, I don't know, we were just saving for whatever reason. This was an outdoor show we did. This was like one of our first like live shows that we did in a real ring, and it was kind of like our test for doing shows indoors. And my idea for doing a live show was, because this ring was so low, that we would build cement bases and raise this ring up and put cement bases around all these. So we met up, I bought all the cement pieces, we kind of cemented everything together, and the day before the show I started looking for a way to rent a ring because I was just too nervous that the ring was, somebody's going to take a bump and the whole ring was going to fall off these bases and just really hurt somebody. So, and I'm so glad we didn't we didn't try to raise the ring ourselves, because like I said before, I am not any kind of contractor. I don't know what I'm doing. So this was just, we used to store the ring. A lot of people have asked me where you go to store it and stuff like that. This was, unfortunately, we just used a storage place, and that gets very expensive. It was like $250 a month, and you know, I don't run shows every month, so you're just eating that cost every month. It's pricey. Let's go here, and this is another ring we would get eventually. This was Steve Carino's ring. That's him loading it, and this is the ring that we would rent most often. And we actually were even using this ring a couple years ago, maybe like 2 years ago before the pandemic. Was still using this ring. So this is kind of one style of ring frame. There's a couple different looks for all different rings, but you can see this is a different one. If you look here, it's got this wide frame that goes all the way the length. And then this one just has basically 3 legs on each side. So there's a bunch of different ring styles. I prefer this one. It's lighter. It's easier to put together. This one actually has like nuts and bolts that need to get screwed in, so it takes a lot longer to set this one up. And it's just taping down the padding. One thing I would always recommend to anybody doing this, tape that padding down because it does buckle and come up. This is before the ropes are tightened. And this was the 3rd or 4th ring I bought. And this one I would end up spray painting a couple times. And I'll show you the different looks of this one. So this eventually we spray painted blue. Changed the turnbuckles out from black to red. Then years later we spray painted it purple. And then made one of the ropes purple. And yeah, that's the same ring there. Then later on, we changed them to blue. This is what it looked like when it was all blue. We did it inside a blue building, so we didn't know how it was going to look with blue turnbuckles, blue posts. But I actually really liked the way it looked. It actually came out pretty good for all that blue. And then this is the current ring we bought. So this is my fifth ring right here that I just bought recently from Jim Molyneux from ECW. We spray painted it red. This is using the real ropes. So I taped the ropes up red, white, and blue. And I did red posts because I wanted to do red instead of... I was going to do the blue posts like the old WWF ones. But I figured, let's try something different. So we went red, and I think it actually looks pretty good with the blue building here. And then this is recent. We just taped this. These are not fans. These are wrestlers in the crowd here. And these are steel cable ropes here. And I see people are asking questions here, so I'm gonna jump in there and answer some of those. I'm just finishing this slideshow. I only have a couple pictures left. So these are steel cable ropes, and I actually just taped them at this show. I think we had like 2 guys on each side taping them. And we got it done in like a half hour, so it really wasn't a long process. So we taped them red, white, and blue because I like that color scheme. We thought the cable ropes were going to be better. I prefer real ropes, honestly. That's just a shot of what that looks like, and you can see a little closer here. I think that's all I got for those pictures. Yeah, that was it. All right, let me switch this back over if I remember how to do this. Nope. I'll get it. Alright, I think I got it here. Alright, did that blow my head up? Okay. Alright, do you have any of the other rings still? No, there's actually a video on somewhere on this channel where I break down how I lost 2 rings. We did sell one at one point. I lost 2. Between myself and Steve Carino, we lost 2. And then I said I sold 2. The first ring I sold, and then our more recent one, I sold that one as well. And I lost 2 of the other ones. And then I have the ring that we're using currently, which is in storage right now. We're not running any shows that require a ring till March for the Super 8, so we're going to be doing some tapings in January, February, and that's it. So that's the only ring I have, and I kind of want to keep it that way because I don't want to be stocking up on rings here. So again, that's just what we did over the course of our backyard wrestling days, and some of those are from pro shows and stuff like that. But just to give you an idea of all the different iterations of what we've been through, and that's only a 75% of what we did. There's still stuff that I don't have pictures of, or I just left out, just to kind of shorten that. So that's just to give you guys an idea, and I just want to remind everybody, in case anybody jumped on later, I'm giving away this ring jacket. It belonged to Matt Osborne, who was Doink the Clown. So if anybody wants that, just type enter in the chat, and I'm gonna pick somebody out. If you're watching this video later on, just say enter in the comments, and same thing. So I had a couple questions that people have left in a couple of videos that I wanted to get to also. Let me move this over so I can see it a little better. And I wanted to get to them just real quick while I had this live video going on. Somebody asked if I had a Discord. I had to look up what that meant. So no, I don't. I don't have one. Once I looked it up, I realized what it was, and I've heard it before, but I don't have one. Don't use it or anything like that. I have an email that you can find on the YouTube page, but to be perfectly honest, I don't check it that often. Maybe once a month, and even then, I try my best to respond to everybody, but I definitely miss people because when you answer, there's a couple questions you get like dozens of, and like they're not necessarily the same, so you can't copy and paste them. But when you're talking about the same thing over and over, it's usually like, all right, I'll make a video about it, and that'll answer those 12 people's questions. So a lot of times it's just easier for me to put together a video than it is to respond individually. So I hope nobody's offended by that. It's just a little quicker, and it also will hopefully avoid me getting that question in the future, if that makes sense. If you want to get booked out of state, like in your promotion, what should I do? That's hard. That's hard to say, man. Like, there are so many wrestlers out there right now, and I mean, let's just let's talk about the 80 people that WWE has released as far as talent just this year alone. And that's not talking about, NWA got rid of people, AEW is releasing people, and then there's just people that you personally want to work with. It's such a loaded answer, um, and getting booked out of state for like a small company, that's hard because what we can pay somebody coming in from another state, it's not going to be worth it for somebody to travel. So it doesn't make sense financially for guys to be traveling out of state to come to smaller shows. Just in my opinion. Now, if you're one of those guys who's hungry and you're like, I'll work everywhere, I'll work anywhere, that's great. But I mean, I don't like long shows, so I don't run 10 matches on every show. So I'm trying to get in my friends, the people who are significant to the history of the promotion that I'm running, and keep storylines in check. So flooding in new talent on every show is difficult, especially when you have a loyal fan base. Obviously, you want to change out the show as much as you can, but you also want to make sure that the people are getting to see the people that they are coming to see. So it's really a loaded question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's kind of the truth. It's really tricky to get booked out of state. You really have to know somebody who knows the promoter. I keep getting this question. I don't know why. I guess because I posted a couple, and a lot of my live videos I post, like the thumbnail is like a picture of the belt or a belt. So I keep getting this same question. Hey, how do I buy one of your belts? And I'm not in the process of selling any belts. So honestly, I just gave 4 or 5 of them away last weekend or 2 weekends ago. To my friends, I did a video about going back to the backyard, and we ended up just doing the show indoors because we're all, in our mid to late 30s, and none of us wanted to break down the ring, move it to my house, do it in my backyard. So we just left the ring up in our building and did a show there. And afterwards, I gave a couple of the belts that we had been using for this particular season of shows to people that the belts might have meant something to, or people who were important to those championships. So I just gave away 4 or 5. So if I was going to sell any, those would have been them. But I just gave them away to my friends. So no, I'm not I'm not actively selling any belts. So I wish I had a better answer on that one too. Is there a place that you trust to get gear? I've always gotten it from High Spots, and I've never had a problem. Do not go to Easy Money, who I loved in ECW. I thought he was awesome. I thought he was going to be like the next big thing. That guy has just ripped off a couple people that I know. So I think his website's like easytights.com or something like that. But I personally know a handful of people that he's just taken their money and ignored. And that's not uncommon. He's done that to a bunch of people. So if you're in the business and you're looking to get gear made, talk to people who have gotten stuff made that you like, and get references from them, and see how many times they've ordered from somebody and stuff like that. If you're not in the business and you're just looking to get gear, it's always best to go to High Spots and order something custom. You can do the route of going to elucha.com, but it's those generic tights that everybody... You'll buy a pair of tights, you'll spend $80 on them, and you'll look like 10 other guys on the independents. Whereas if you spent an extra $40, you'd have something custom that's unique to you, and you won't look like everybody else. So I know you're saving a little bit of money by getting something that's pre-made from eLucha, but in the end, you're just looking like everybody else, and it's better to spend the $40 or $50 extra and get something custom from High Spots. And they do good work. I don't know who their gear maker is, but I've never had an issue with it. I know High Spots is kind of like the generic answer, but I've never had a problem with them, so I'll continue to recommend them. Even though this is not a sponsor or anything like that, they don't know who the hell I am. So, would you say the height of backyard wrestling popularity was in the late '90s and early 2000s? I remember being around a a lot back then. I mean, I guess so. I think the Mick Foley thing really like popularized it, right? When he came out with the what was it in '97? Might have even been '98. Talking about the Dude Love video and all that, and then all these people kind of realized like, oh, so we're not the only ones. And then shortly afterwards, people were able to create their own websites, and the internet kind of blew up in the early 2000s, and you can see there's other people out there doing the same stuff, and you could either watch what they're doing and borrow ideas, or you could just become a fan of what they're doing, or put your stuff out there and hopefully get some fans of your own. So I think that was an exciting time because there was just so much that people didn't know in terms of who else was doing it, and it was kind of a cool time, at least for me. And plus I was 16 at the time, so like that was like the height of my pro wrestling fandom, right? Like those are the years you always remember, other than I guess your childhood years as well. It was like the Hogan era for me. But another question I keep getting is how do you get proprietary talent, or how do you sign people to contracts? And I don't know why people would want to do that or think that's a good idea on the independent level. That is a terrible idea. And not just that, if somebody on the independent level is telling me that they signed a contract somewhere, I'm telling them that they're getting ripped off immediately. They signed some kind of bad deal. Something doesn't make sense. There's a lot of stupid pettiness with independent wrestling to begin with. A lot of, well, you can't work their show. They're 20 miles from us. That's idiotic. The only thing I dislike, I think wrestlers can work anywhere they want, and all that. The only thing I dislike is don't work for promoters who are ripping people off, because you're going to get ripped off eventually. And don't work for promoters who have a bad reputation. Let's get those people out of the business. Those are my sticking points. I also don't like when promoters, if I have 10 guys, wrestler A, B, C, D, all the way down, and then another promoter books those same 10 guys, it's like, come on, man, like, or they'll book 5 guys from my show, 5 guys from another show that's 10 minutes away from me, and it's like, come on, man, like, there's enough wrestlers out there where we can all do something different. So I just don't like, mostly because that's a lack of creativity, right? I don't like that stuff, but it's not something I'm like, damn you, or anything like that. So those are just my pet peeves. But as far as contracts and proprietary talent, that does not exist on the independent wrestling level, nor should it. Like that's an insane concept. If anybody tells you they have a contract with another company and it's a company you never heard of, they are in over their head. I'll tell you that right now. Somebody asked about holding a seminar. And I mean, honestly, everything I would cover in a seminar, not a cemetery, I kind of go into detail here on this channel. So, I mean, to me, there's no point in doing a seminar because everything I would cover, I'm talking about here anyway. So, that's just kind of my thoughts on those couple of things. So, just last time, I just want to bring this up here. Anybody who wants the this Doink the Clown ring jacket from Matt Osborne, who was the original Doink the Clown. Again, I don't know if that was used in WWF. I have no idea. I didn't ask. And obviously he's not around anymore, so I can't ask. So I'm going to pick somebody. So if you're watching this live or in the comments later on, just hit enter or write enter in the comments. And that'll put you in the drawing, and I'll pick somebody and contact you and send it out. By the way, I gave away a belt twice on this show. Neither of the people ever got back to me, so I just listed it on eBay. So anybody who wants that belt, go buy it on eBay. But actually, you know what? I messaged 3 people on this channel, and none of them got back to me. So I don't know if it's a spam filter thing or something with YouTube, but I just gave up out of frustration. So I did try 3 times to give it away. So nobody wants this damn belt, so now I'm just selling it. So if you want it, go on eBay and look for it. It's not that hard to find. It's ring used belts. So yeah, that was pretty much all the stuff I wanted to talk about. If anybody else had any other questions or anything, I'm happy to talk about it, but that's pretty much it. I do have a video I'm going to put together of editing and stuff like that. Not as much in the weeds as I did last time, because I think that confused people. But basically just showing kind of how I combine different angles and stuff like that. I'm trying to pull it over, see if I can move it to this screen here. I don't know if it'll let me. So you can kind of see what the editing program I used looks like. I mean, if you've seen Final Cut Pro, you already know what it looks like, but... Okay, so that's 4 angles. I'm going to find the OBS here. Alright, I'm going to shrink myself here. Okay. So yeah, so this is basically what I will use for editing. This particular match, which is going to go live on Thanksgiving, this had 3 different camera angles. My normal show will have... now it's about 4 to 5. It used to be 6 to 7 different camera angles, but I've kind of went down on that. You see here that the coloring can be off, and you could fix all that stuff. But yeah, this is basically I have usually 2 hard cameras. One's labeled hard cam, one's labeled side, and then I have one where somebody's roaming around ringside, and you can kind of view. And basically what I'll do is, this is my audio for commentary, and I'll just watch these 3 boxes, decide on what the angle I want to use is, and then you just cut to that angle pretty much. So it takes a little bit of work to set up in the beginning, but once you get it going, it's pretty easy to edit. And I'll usually, when I watch this stuff, I'll watch it on fast forward, and I can cut pretty quickly. If you've been around wrestling long enough, you can kind of see when stuff is coming. Every once in a while, somebody will throw you a curveball, so you have to rewind and then just fix it. But for the most part, I can pretty much edit on fast forward and cut through. So whatever this is, an hour and a half show, take you about 45 minutes to get through the first time, and then go back, make edits, add titles and stuff like that. So a show like this, an hour and a half show, probably get it done in about 3 hours if I'm just focused on that. Unfortunately, I'm usually multitasking, so yeah. So I saw somebody was asking about find a ring rental place. That's tricky. Luckily, where I was from, there is a ring rental place literally 5 minutes from the building. It was still insanely expensive to rent a ring. Honestly, most of the time, if you rent a ring 5 times, you're better off buying a ring used if you can get it. And if you rent a ring 10 times, you're better off just buying one brand new. Now, of course, you have to factor in the cost of storing it, or, you know, if you have a garage where you can keep it, then you're kind of lucky there. And then you have to factor in the cost for transporting it, U-Haul or whatever. But yeah, renting it is not cheap. You're looking at, just so you guys know, because I know a lot of people always ask about costs. For a ring rental, you're typically looking at $300 on the very low side, which is very rare that you're going to get somebody to rent a ring for $300. And typically you're going to spend $500 to $700 to rent a ring. So it's not cheap. When you factor in, you know, the cost of the building and stuff like that, you're probably looking at $1,000 right there, right before you get to any wrestlers. So I know the fun part is planning out who you're going to book and who you're going to use. But there's a lot of costs that go before that. So I mean, it's all great to just say, hey, you know, I'm just going to book Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross, and Steve Austin. But there's a lot of costs that go before that, and that's just not even factoring costs for posters and insurance and all that kind of stuff. Another question that I didn't write down, but I keep getting it, is about insurance. Like where I should go for insurance. And I mean, you can just Google it. Just Google event insurance. Do your research. People are asking like what company I use and blah blah blah. I'm not gonna get into all that. I don't know the legalities of any of that stuff. So All I did, very simple, was Google it and went to one of the earliest results I found and did a little bit of research into the company. So I mean, if I can do that little amount of work, anybody who's an aspiring promoter can do the same. So, any tips for when I make my debut in wrestling? Yeah. So this actually goes along with a documentary I just watched on Santa Claus. Believe it or not, the big thing is make a big first impression, right? That doesn't necessarily need to be your entrance. When they were talking about Santa Claus, they were talking about his entrance, but that doesn't need to be your entrance. That could be the opening couple of seconds in the match. Now, that doesn't mean you need to steal all the heat from your opponent. You can make your opponent shine by selling for them or anything like that. The other thing is, I know it's exciting to think about what you're going to do in front of the crowd, but for longevity in pro wrestling, you should focus on everything around the show. Get there early, help set up, constantly ask people if they need help for stuff. I can tell you personally, there are 2 guys in the last 6 months that I am now using on every single show for the next year based on their attitudes alone. So that matters more than anything else. Like, you might have a crappy match. As a promoter, I'll tell you right now, I don't like crappy matches, but I'd much rather you have a crappy match than have a crappy attitude backstage. So that's just some behind-the-scenes knowledge. And I know that's probably not what you were looking for, but I think that's more important, and that'll help you long-term. We run locally, but we wanted to run an out-of-state show, usually in the East. Going out west and traveling with the ring that far isn't exactly practical. No, and not just that. You got to remember, you're not just going to promote the show on Facebook. That world doesn't work. You can't just promote a no-name Federation show on, it's somebody like Game Changer. They can promote something on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and they'll get their fan base there. But you're just starting out, so you won't be able to promote, a show 300 miles away without getting out there and putting up posters. So, 300 miles, it's like, okay, it's a 6-hour drive, but you're not just driving there one day and doing posters. You're talking about driving there for a couple weekends in a row and hanging posters and meeting people and getting into the area. So that's in my opinion, that's a bad way to start promoting is running all over the place. Start somewhere where you have a foothold and you can kind of, work your way from there and expand if you need to. But I find that expansion is, I've run shows in North Carolina, I've run shows in Delaware, I've run shows in Pennsylvania. I never enjoy them as much as the shows that are within an hour from my house, because all I remember is having to drive to North Carolina to promote and having to rely on 20 other people to get my message out there, and it's not fun for me. How tough is it to get old school legends on indie shows? It's not tough at all. You either contact them directly if they have that option, or you go through an agent. Obviously, you go through an agent, they're gonna take a percentage of that, and I guarantee you, the legends are not paying that percentage. That's coming from your side. So if somebody costs $500 for a wrestling show, expect to pay $750, and that's not an exaggeration. So I always try to deal with the guys direct. In addition to that, anytime you work with some of the old school legends, make it very clear what they're doing before you agree on a price. Just say, hey, we're looking to have you come in, do some autographs before the show, do a seminar, whatever the pre-show stuff is, a meet and greet, wrestle one match, lose, always important to establish that, and then we'll take you to the hotel or we'll get you on a flight the next night or whatever. Be very clear about the timeline so nobody can say, well, you didn't tell me that. Seminars cost extra or this costs extra. You get that all out front, and they can tell you up front, hey, a seminar is going to cost you this, or we'll split the money, or whatever the case is. Put it out there all in front of them. That's the only thing that's tricky about dealing with some of the legends, is you want to get everything out front, so there's no questions, basically. We booked the Sandman on one show. The whole day he was there, and his if you've seen pictures of him on Twitter, he's got like a golf polo and cargo pants. He showed up to the show wearing that, and we're like, oh, I wonder when he's gonna get changed. And again, we went through an agent, and so we're ready. His name's on the sheet, and he's trying to plan a match out with somebody's trying to plan a match out with him. It's kind of just pushing him off. Finally, like, we get to the match, which I think was the second match on the show, and we're hitting his music, and he has no idea that he's coming out. So it's my fault, I think, because he didn't know he was coming out when I very clearly explained to the booking agent what the plan was. I should have just skipped the booking agent and went directly to him, but learning mistake. Learning curve, I guess. So his music came out. He went out, did the match, was looking for beer. We're like, we don't have beer. We thought you brought your own. Anyway, yeah, did the match. Wasn't good. and yeah, he had no idea. And he came to the back. He goes, I had no idea I was working tonight. And then I just looked at the agent and I just said, what the hell do you tell these guys? So, yeah, that's my advice. Just get out there, let them know everything that you're planning to do, and make sure it makes sense for them and it's what they're looking to do also. So, all right, guys, I think that's everything. If you guys want, I did promote a while ago. I had another channel. It's our ECWA channel, and I'm posting a lot of my old shows. It's World 1, 3K Wrestling, some of the B4W Pro stuff, Dreams Pro Wrestling, obviously ECWA. I'm posting a bunch of free matches on there. So if you guys want, the channel is ECWA 1967, so 1967, that's the year that ECWA was established. That's the channel, so if you want to subscribe to that, feel free to. Like I said, if you're a fan of pro wrestling, we're always throwing up at least a new match every week. We're going to have on Thanksgiving the Turkey Bowl, which I've talked about on this show before, but we're actually putting one out live, meant for public consumption for the first time ever. So please check that out if you're around on Thanksgiving Day. It's going to air noon Eastern time, so right after like the Macy's parade and all that. So yeah, so check that channel out if you guys are interested. Subscribe. It's totally free. And yeah, that's all I got. I hope everybody out there has a happy Thanksgiving if you're from America. And Merry Christmas and all that kind of stuff with the holidays coming up. I think I'm going to put a video out right before the holidays. And then we have 2 tapings, January and February, so I'm going to be making some videos at that time. And then we'll be back kind of to a regular regiment or schedule at that point. So, yeah, so thank you guys for checking this video out. Again, if you do want to enter in to win the Doink thing, just type enter below. And good luck to everybody who entered, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for joining me here.